everybody, and welcome to our first new episode of T Watches a Scary Movie of 2023. My name is T, and of course, you are watching Scary Movies. I appreciate you tuning in for yet another year of scary coverage here, whether it's TV, whether it's movies, whether it's games, whether it's books, folks. I am here for you for everything that you need. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and if you like what I'm talking about, make sure hit that like or that thumbs up as well, too. You can catch the video version of this show every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page, youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. You can catch the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just make sure to search TWASM or T Watches a Scary Movie. So, tonight in my review, I'm going to be talking about Bones and All, a film that cracked the top 10 of my 2022, but I hadn't had my review out for it yet just because time is a bitch, y'all. So, we are finally going to get to my review of Bones and All, but before that, we got just a little bit of movie news that we're going to be discussing. So, we are ready to get our next installment of the Purge series. You know, I had reviewed the Forever Purge not too long ago now, and I had actually called it quite possibly my favorite film in the series. You know, we have had 5 films, counting the Forever Purge, released, and The Purge tells the story of this annual night in the United States to where all crime is legal. But of course, for the purposes of this film franchise, we are focusing on murder and mayhem. These are the crimes that are being carried out. And 2021's installment of the Forever Purge, say not too long ago, but man, I guess at this point, that would have been almost 2 years ago now. But the Forever Purge told the story of the Purge being brought back after being abolished in one of the earlier installments, the Purge election year, and this time though taking even a far more political twist than we had seen. And keep in mind, this is a very political series. A lot of it's about class welfare and about how folks just need to murder to let all that aggression out, but it disproportionately affects the poor and those who are not rich and upper class than it does obviously middle to lower class. And that's a story that's been told across all of these films here, but Forever Purge actually kind of tied it together. A lot of stuff that's going on in our nation today. Folks' thoughts and feelings on things like immigration and about people from other countries coming in to live in the United States as well. And it took that kind of into overdrive. And the film ended with the United States basically being broken and the Purge basically not ending, to where the Purge is supposed to end after this one night. We find out that people are still going to continue committing the Purge at this point, with Americans having to cross into other borders to basically escape what's happening in the nation. And it's interesting because this directly ties into the Purge election year, which stars Frank Grillo. And I say that to wrap around the fact that Frank Grillo is coming back to do this 6th installment of the Purge series. When we left off in the Purge election year, that told the story of Senator Charlie Roan, who was looking to be elected in order to basically get rid of the Purge. Her having been a victim of the Purge night herself back in the day, she was looking for a way to escape that and to help other people escape this madness as well too. And thus, that's where we were left off. But again, after the Purge election year, they did a prequel, which to the first night of the Purge. They did a TV show as well. And then we got the Forever Purge, which skipped ahead a number of years. So we don't really know where this next installment's going to go. The fact that Leo Barnes, played by Frank Grillo, is back, there's a couple ideas here that maybe he might be trying to escape America at this point, because he was somebody who was very anti-Purge. And I have to assume Senator Roan won't be back. She might be back, but I wouldn't count necessarily on that be a thing that happens. But It's very, very interesting, though, that we're going to bring Frank Grillo back into the mix just because he's probably the most recognizable name that comes with it. If you recall, Ethan Hawke was actually the star of the first Purge film. Didn't go too well for him, but also, I'm not a big fan of that first Purge film, as I stated before. It's very muted compared to the other ones and just didn't end up being as interesting of a home invasion thriller as I was expecting it to be. But this will now be Frank Grillo's third and final film in the series. We don't know if this will be the end of the Purge series, but at least it's going to be Frank Grillo's last film. This might be Leo Barnes' last stand. So I'd be interested to see, I think, if we continue the story that was told in the Forever Purge. That's a great way to show it, is that, Leo is either himself trying to escape, or like we saw some of what was featured in the Forever Purge, maybe he's now working in a network of people trying to relocate Americans from the United States to Canada or to Mexico to escape the Forever Purge, which is now everyday life. Whatever it is, very interesting concept to go with, and I'm excited to see it. So don't be surprised, folks. 2024 is what I would expect for us to get it. Very slim chance we can get it by the end of the year. I'm thinking early 2024, though, for sure. And that leads us to our movie review tonight. We are talking Bones and All, which is based on the 2015 novel Bones and All by Camille DeAngelis. This is the story of Marin, a young teenager in 1980s Virginia who suffers from an affliction of cannibalism. And I know I make that sound cheery and very, very easily said, but Marin is searching for her place in the world after an incident with a friend where she is forced to go on the run. Marin is basically just trying to find out more of who she is and why she is the way that she is. And in doing this, she comes across Lee, as played by Timothy Chalamet, and the two of them look to figure out some semblance of life together as flesh eaters. And this movie first of all stands out because earlier in 2022 we got the absolutely phenomenal Fresh, starring Daisy Edgar Jones and Sebastian Stan. This being a very different story about a woman who is abducted by a cannibal who loves eating people and is selling parts to other people who love eating people as well too. And after seeing that, I think that myself and maybe anybody else who saw that film very much had it in mind what kind of story Bones and All was going to be, because I didn't even realize it was based on a book until about a month or so ago. At that point, about around the time that I got a chance to see it, and the trailer definitely gives a different kind of expectation for what the film is as well too. Almost similar to like Bodies, to where I feel that Bodies very much came off marketed and it very much seemed like it was supposed to be a slasher when in truth it was a whodunit. I described it as a game of Clue a number of different times, and a phenomenal film. And Bones and All very much seemed like it was marketed as this thriller about cannibals. So there's going to be all these like different victims and cannibals going around eating people. It's going to be dangerous for everybody. And that's not really actually what it was. This is very much a coming of age tale about a young woman who, like I said, is just trying to find her way in the world and try to find out why she is the way that she is. And while she's doing all this, she manages to find love. And these two people decide that there's got to be a way for them to live their lives. There's got to be some meaning for this, because the one thing that we don't get in this film, and I hate to kind of spoil this one bit, and it's not really a storyline spoiler, but it sort of is here, is that we don't ever really get a true understanding or meaning or reasoning for why some of these people we come across in this story eat other people. It's just not really an important point to the plot. So if you go in with that expectation, like, well, I need to find out why do they want to eat other people, you're not going to get it. That's not something that this story is here to tell us about. But it is very interesting because over the course of this movie, multiple characters end up trying to interact and almost use Marin as a way to give their own life meaning. And Marin very much doesn't want to be used. She's not here to help anybody's life out. And I know that might sound terrible, that might sound mean, but that's not what it is. She's trying to figure out her own way in life. She's trying to figure out why things are the way they are for her, and that shouldn't be dependent on any of these other people who might be looking for Marin to, save them or to keep them living. And I found that absolutely fascinating, honestly, because it didn't matter that she comes across this young man, Lee, who has the same affliction, and that the two of them fall in love. Even if they do fall in love, it doesn't change the fact that she wants to know more about her life. She wants to know more about everything that's going on with her and what's making her tick. And it's heartbreaking in a number of ways, because you can see that all these people with this affliction are leading, and some of them at least, are leading these absolute terrible lives where they can't have these connections with anybody that's normal for fear of hurting them, but also it's a fear of acceptance as well too, that this is who I am. Can you accept me for being incredibly different from everybody else that's out there? And I just found that to be absolutely fascinating. And this is a movie that doesn't have, I talk about a lot about movies having like typical traditional scares that one might expect in a horror film. It's not a popcorn horror movie in the least bit. There's a lot going on behind the scenes with this movie, and you really do have to stick with it, not only because it's over 2 hours long, but just because the symbolism in all of it really does take catching the entire thing to understand even slightly what's going on. And I'd be amiss if I didn't mention Mark Rylance, who also shows up in this film as Sully. And I think it would be a mistake to call Sully any kind of antagonist, because Sully was once in the same position that Marin and Lee were in, but the difference there is that Sully has kind of worked out for himself, what works, and he's developed these own rules, whether they're from himself or that he's learned over the course of his life with this affliction, and he wants to share that with our young heroine Marin. But we find out that everybody has a different way of dealing with this disease, dealing with these problems, and some don't mesh with others in the same way. And it's interesting because Lee and Marin come across another couple of eaters across the course of this film who also have different mindsets on the way that you're supposed to live what they're all living with. And that's where the very concept, hence the name Bones and All, comes from. And it does kind of like drop it's a bit of a red flag to let you know already. The name is very literal. The name is absolutely very, very literal. But wow, if it's not impactful by the time that we do come across the titular Bones and All. It's not as gory as you might think. I actually would be crazy enough to say that Fresh, another story about cannibals, was way more gory than this was. There are some parts that are very bloody for sure, but I do think that due to the way that the characters are responding to everything that's going on, some of their absolute horror at some of the more bloody and brutal things that happen in this film, it's easier to look at this as being less of a gore fest compared to something like Fresh. Definitely one that I recommend catching, though. It was on a lot of people's top list of 2022, and it's there for a reason. Again, if you're looking for something a little bit more faster paced, Fresh is where you want to go. Even though Fresh is a fantastic film, that hit my top 20, not my top 10, but my top 20 for sure. But if you're looking for something very heartfelt for sure, Bones and All is definitely the way to go, folks. Boy here is a big fan of Fangoria. So, if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there. Get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022, and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription, or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/axdew. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/axdew, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies two subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your number one source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever. It's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/c/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/c/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.